Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at what it means to innovate in ecosystems and dig deep into the ecosystem metaphor. And we're going to take also apart the ecosystem to describe it. You can remember from the process discussion in the value model that domain of information that is related to things actually getting done, that we have the components of activities, actors, and assets that we need to produce products. The functions are in the product, but actually, when you are supplying services, the functions can be in the activities as well. So the activity to fix a tooth on a person, a patient at the dentist, is a value-adding activity. It's a function. It solves a problem and removes the pain. So functions can be on the layer of a process. And this is something you need to keep in mind now, because it will come back to how we analyze and model ecosystems. Linking what activities are done by what actors, by utilizing what asset, we can draw that as a value network. It's a network of organizations. They're fitting together by the way they are supporting each other with activities. Let's move into the ecosystem now. How did this metaphor come up? Well, it used to be that we had trouble describing in a systematic way the environments of organizations and businesses. And one of the early attempts that got widespread as a framework that people recognize is the five forces of Porter. And while it's a good categorization, it is not so much showing the dynamics of how things change. And from a strategy perspective, that's fairly interesting. And also from an innovator perspective, I want to innovate against a market that is big tomorrow, not one that is big now and shrinking. So beginning in the 70s, and then becoming more and more visible in the 90s and after that, we started to talk about ecosystems as a metaphor for business environments. And there's some reasonable reasons that we want to do that, because every situation is unique, and categorization scheme might be useful, but then in this unique situation, it's all tangled up in some complex way. The ecosystem metaphor seems pretty suitable. It's like a dynamic and complex environment with interacting actors and individuals like the organisms in the business world. And it's co-evolving. So, there'll be changes going on. And what some actors do change the conditions for others, and it is something that is evolving as a whole. And you can have synergies, but there could also be relationships that are more built on dependence, like symbiosis. So we feed off each other, but it can also be mutually beneficial, right? And then we have what I call the business ecosystem. Here we have actors that are connected together in trying to make a service area or a product type have a huge market impact. It might not require full deliberate coordination, like a governing activity. It could be coordinated by a platform, or we can be coordinated by other systems and so on. But there is an understanding that we are in this together. You can call this in the middle here. There we have maybe some value network type structure that we talked about in business models. Actors that are connected functionally by what they're doing. The activities, one actor feeds into the other actors that can do their things. We make the software to the base station manufacturer, and some other company makes the cables and the control hardware. And the third actor is the actual telecom company. They put it together and arrange so that it has the right power and interfaces and works according to standards, radio parts, all that stuff, right? So it's actually a distributed value creation over many actors, but we are linked. The things we do has an intended and purposeful role to fill in what the other actor also then in turn will be trying to do. Nowadays, it's more that we focus on the core when we talk about ecosystems. And one definition that we want to use is that we combine our individual activities and offering in a joint customer-facing value proposition. That means that there is a structure of things that is done that falls out in value for some customer. We could also have a ecosystem leader, right? So there are some central companies that have a lot of power in the business ecosystem. Often they own the customer relationship. Maybe they own a proprietary technology like Cisco. For innovating in that technology space, you have to take into account the conditions Cisco has created. We also have aligned investments. We want to build these radio base stations over a long period of time. We are in it for the long run. That means also that each part gets a little bit specialized by the work, learning and investments they do in this system to produce value together. It makes the system tighter. Over time, the complexity increases and more collaboration points and tighter integration. So we can do more value when we consume less resources and we compete against other ecosystems. We have a situation where our business models are nested together. Just to illustrate here an abstract example, so each of these are a business model canvas. We have activity performers. So their value proposition becomes an activity. And their value proposition becomes an activity in these actors' business model. And this is the ecosystem leader. They have contact with the end customer. Complementary actor, their value proposition may be adding to this. That increases the value of the thing that the ecosystem leader produced. So complementary actors, they can be enabling, or in this case, they are enhancing. So they add to the value proposition. If they're enabling, these are probably enabling because they are doing something that fits into activities or assets. So these are assets providers. This one is an asset provider. And this one is an asset provider that goes into the customer channel. They provide maybe a customer channel of some sort. So looking at this Apple ecosystem, we can see that in this case, it's a platform. It's centered on the App Store, which organizes the abundance for the customer. One of the key platform functions is organizing abundance, but it's as many of digital platforms and the ecosystems they build heavily dependent on complementary actors. We have all the content owners like music, books, movies, all sorts of things that come in. We have the mobile app developers, all the apps and accessories. And then very importantly, if you want to have a platform and build up something that can grow because you add on complementers, you don't have to do everything yourself, but you leverage other people's creativity, other people's content, other people's networks and skills, and just provide this point in the virtual space where everything gets connected and served to the user. It's very highly recommended that you secure for yourself, first of all, the stability of the platform, control over the interfaces by which others add their modular offerings, but especially the revenue-related functions. The functions connected to what we pay for, because it's a very powerful position in the ecosystem. Basically, you control the revenue stream to the whole rest of the ecosystem that you have behind you.